Hey, John.
Hey Thomas, how's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Good deal.
I just got a pop-up from Zoom saying whether I want to take the host away from you
Oh,
and become a
please do.
host. No, no,
Please
no, I
do.
don't need to. I opted in for co-hosting. Sharing Zoom meetings is caring.
Yeah, well, who knows what who knows what the host is gonna do? Yeah, no.
No, I meant it's sharing is caring. I just
Yes.
I'm mumble, but it's scary as well. Like
It's
meetings are
scary,
pretty scary.
scary and caring. Yeah, no. Yeah, no, this is good. This is good. This is actually, unfortunately, the first TypeScript contributors meeting that I've actually made it to. So, um, I, I feel like I'm not worthy of host status yet.
Yeah, well, welcome. It's usually a lot of fun. A lot of fun. We talk about all things TypeScript. Hey, Lena.
Mm. Hi, hi.
I know that at least one more person is coming, so we can wait a bit.
Okay. I had the incident. I was the incident manager on Cosmos, and the incident happened. So
Oh,
Oh
wow.
no.
I,
And you
oh
handed it
no, yeah, I
over.
survived.
Handed it over for 30 minutes ago.
Hmm?
You handed it over 30 minutes ago.
It was like resolved at 16:01, like my time, like exactly at the end of the. But it's scary. I was scared. So, but I survived it, so it's good.
I,
Did you have,
I
yeah, go.
so my first one, I had an instant, and I'm like, I don't know anything of what's going on, because it's in code bases I'm not familiar with. Yes, it's like DevOpsy kind of like, hey, Kubernetes service is down, and I'm like, oh no, this is a mess. But someone jumped on and they knew what they were doing, so I was like, okay, this is great.
Yes, it's a good thing that you're not responsible for solving it, you just
Yes,
have to be there and listen, but it's still like difficult when you're not like familiar with the domain, like so
yeah.
it's well, I learned some things, that's good.
I haven't had an incident yet. Knock on wood. I've been on three or four shifts, incident free. I stopped believing that incidents happen. Not to me. Those are things that happen to other people.
Mhm.
Yes, like myself. Yeah.
All right, let's start, and we'll see whether somebody's going to join in the process. I'm gonna. What can we do? I guess we have the agenda, so we can. I'll share my screen. We can walk through it. Before I'll do that, I'll just make sure that I turn off Slack and email so I can make this public. Uh, that should be it. So sharing. Okay. So results are here for those of you who are rusty with how this works. We usually go over the top 3, 4. Hey, Angela. Top 3, 4 voting results. Then we have a look whether there were anything in these sections of, issues and amounts of interest. This time there weren't. We have a look at the comments and at the agenda and try to kind of squeeze it all in. If it's a free discussion, no goals are like in particular, like we are not aiming at any goals except for at least discussing all the voting results because that feeds into our planning process. Yeah, so there are two highest voted issues. One is that our watch script is not picking up packages and WebView folders, and the other one is that we would like to upgrade our Node version. Yeah, don't know, maybe Angelo, if you want to speak to the first one, if you have any more details, since you are the parent of the watch script and how is it called when you are not uh, you're a voluntold maintainer of the watch script as well. So what do you think about it?
So what is the criteria? Like what do they want to do with the watch script? Fix watch script, pick up changes and packages and oh,
Uh,
okay.
Think-
I can like talk to that like a little bit because I know I've created this issue when I was processing the TypeScript survey that Thomas created, and there were like a couple complaints about like the watch script not picking up.
Yeah, we can do this pretty quickly actually. Do you
Yeah,
want
and
to
like
sign that to me and I can just knock it
mhm.
out? Um,
So like the question was whether we get like any performance because like people are expecting that like the watch script picks up the changes like by default, and like
yeah.
if you do like default behavior whether there are any like performance impact. And
No, there won't. We actually just a little bit of history. So originally we were using Chokedar, and Chokedar is terrible. Like, I know it's terrible because uh so Tomas, don't get mad at me, but basically like last year when we did the repository service, we put Chokedar in production for the repository service for watching files. And like for a day, when we released it, literally that day, people came out and were like, why is my CPU utilization like above 80%? Like people were just mad. And so I went and just like disabled it basically. So Chokedar is just not a move. And if we're using that for our watch script, right, it's just like we're just doing unnecessary load. So I switched to Parcel and it's much better. So Parcel is what VS Code uses actually. So in this, all we have to do is just add the packages folder, I think. I think honestly we could just leave just add the packages folder and then do like a what is it called? I forgot the name. Like a glob
Just
for
a glob.
all
Yeah.
TypeScript files.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think we can do that. And then if you want to only, I don't think anybody's gonna want to like specify places they want to watch, right? So I don't think like, I think we can just say packages, right? I don't know.
I agree. Because just using TypeScript. If any of our packages actually had a build step, then I think we'd be in a different boat.
Yeah.
Because they don't, then I think it'd be the same as watching, hey, here's all the whole source directory, just watch everything. Each package is essentially just watch everything in all the packages.
One thing I would like to do, so this is something I think we should do. So there's a little context. I'm working on DaVinci Phase 2, but I want to do it right. So I haven't gotten to Tomas's comment on it, but basically I'm paying down tech debt as I do the features. And I think so right, like if you look at the MR chain, which I'm gonna need help with, by the way, guys, like there's gonna be like 10 MRs in the next 2 weeks that I have to get through the door, probably more. Because I'm just paying down the tech debt that we've accumulated. Even Elwin's helping me out, which is awesome. Just like the file resolver is now like FS client, small things like that. But the TLDR, the point that I'm getting to is for integration tests, right now, like we have to build, but when we build, the build step is sequential for all the packages. So I think it would be cool, and maybe we just need to switch to a different tool. But like, because I know Turbo Repo does this, but like when we build packages, when we run the build step, we should just build them all in parallel. I don't know if it'll impact CI at all, like the performance on CI, but I think like if we built like two packages in parallel during the build step, that would speed up our CI and also like it for integration testing, which I'm going. So right now for the DaVinci Phase 2, I'm building integration tests first for the entire code suggestions pipeline for open tabs context and all the different behaviors that are expected. And so I'm building integration tests for that. and it's just a pain right now because we have to build, but the build step is sequential. So I'm wondering maybe
This
we
is
can,
web views, right? Because web view is the only
yeah,
thing that has the build. So
yeah.
could is there a way that we can add a script, or like some sort of accumulated, a package JSON at that root web views folder that essentially says, hey, run run build on all of these, and we can write a little, inline script to just go, hey, let's.
Well, that's what I'm wondering because you're the
Yeah.
expert for that, and I don't know what is the criteria. Like what I'm thinking is like, what if we just move the build step instead of doing npm run compile, we run all those steps in the watch script and just have a command line argument for just this is a build or like this is watch, right?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
But the issue with that is we might miss a package. I don't know. That's the issue. I don't know.
One thing that is important to say is that, like, for the packages, that's more of a like a compile time, not even separation between the files. But what is really happening under the hood is that the ES build goes through the entry file that we give it, which could be the, the node entry file or the browser entry file, and it goes from there through imports and just bundles the code. It doesn't. There is no such step as, I'm going to pre-build the packages, then I'm going to look at the package hierarchy and start building it from the least dependent to the most dependent. It's really just going from the entry file of Node or browser, and from there it goes through the import tree until it minifies and imports all the code. And so the only thing where like the parallel build might make sense, as John was saying, is like the web view, where those are really like completely separate apps. But I don't
That's what I'm
think
talking about is the web view because
okay. Because
those
yeah,
are
okay.
like prerequisites in order to run the integration test, right? At least right now.
Gotcha.
I mean, the
Gotcha.
build.
Okay. That makes sense. And just like when you say packages, I was imagining
Yeah,
the
sorry.
packages that are not really just, yeah. Cool. So the web views. Perfect.
But yeah, I don't know.
I have an idea about this. If we can create yeah, let's create an issue just on building web views in parallel and assign it to me, or I can do that because
Okay.
um,
That would, I mean, it would save us time, like
yeah,
probably maybe 30 so seconds on CI because CI is slower.
yeah,
Like at least 5-10 seconds on our machines for
yep,
integration tests. For integration tests and like compilation in general. Because the build step right now uses concurrently for the compile, like
mhm,
TypeScript compiler, the um,
yeah.
actual ES build transpilation, and then something else. But it
Does
doesn't do that for the web views. So
does Vite have any kind of idea of like an incremental build, or is it a full build every time?
it's
If
full
you're
code.
running, it's a full build every time. So if you're running, I need to run my integration tests again. Uh, you're
Yeah,
you're rebuilding all of the front ends. Yeah,
yeah.
that
Mm.
stinks. Yeah.
But well, another thing is I really think we should start. We have like a good, we have a fair amount of utilities now and integration tests. I think we should start writing more integration tests, like invest a little bit more into it. Um, because like for the open tab stuff, my plan is because I'm refactoring everything. Like the whole plan is to nuke an entire folder, which is scary, right? Because you might cause a regression. But if the integration test tests all the high level logic and each MR passes, then you don't have to like go through and manually test each feature, right? So yeah.
Yep.
Anyway,
Agreed.
totally unrelated. Sorry for derailing the conversation.
Good. I think that we do have some issues in maybe end-to-end tests, but integration tests as well. I think it's kind of topic that is hard to approach because for writing those tests efficiently, we need to invest into the infrastructure. I know that, for example, we can't really know well when the language server started correctly. And that means that we like we don't know when to start testing, causes some flakiness. There are tens of little paper cuts that if we would need to like remove ideally first before we start creating more and more integration tests. And I probably not, it's not gonna squeeze, this kind of platform work doesn't squeeze into a normal work day when you just want to write just one extra integration test for the feature that you are working on. Does anyone have the issue handy if we have a integration tests issue for language server? If not, can someone create it? Would somebody be so kind? It's mainly about the, making sure that you have tests to copy paste already instead of having to fight the plumbing or the CI setup.
Yeah, I think we need to document it because there's a few utilities that Elwin and I have made that are like really helpful. Like we have a cert eventually. So rather than like it's just a timeout basically looking for whatever, and then Elwin made a really cool one looking for specific console output. So you just say like expect console output to eventually contain, and then um you can configure a timeout for that as well, which kind of removes the flakiness a little bit as long as the timeout's high, but it also increases the time. So, but for the most part, it generally works. Um, so we have a little bit better setup. It's just like you said, Tomas, making sure we think about those things.
Would it make sense for us to use a different protocol rather than standard in and out for integration tests? I know we use it for in that's our production protocol, but just a place where we can have a better, clearer delineation between we've sent a message, we haven't sent a message, rather than just listen for the console says this, hopefully.
We are using the language server client in the integration tests for it. The same thing that VS Code uses.
Oh, okay.
To have a little bit of a higher, to have that RPC interface on top of the standard.
So we should be able to get back a hey, everything's good to go, right? Like we should be able to.
I don't think we have, like we should be able to if we implement it, but there is no such a, because what happens usually is that you send with the language server protocol, you send the initialization message, and then you get back on initialized callback. So that's a request. The initialize is a request that you send. So you get a response. But then the config change, that's a notification that the client sends.
Right.
And everything we do happens or most of what we do happens in the config change when you send the token and we kick off all the API checks and everything, and then you can work. And the config change is notification. You go, Angela.
I was gonna say I think that's a gap we have in general. I think we should eventually get to this. Maybe I can create an issue or someone can, but like especially with the repository service, with the Duo project access checker, like all the stuff that happens on the configuration right after the API calls that we make, like we should maybe create some, I don't know, are we waiting until Tristan does the RxJS stuff before we create the sense of like the server is ready, right? I'm wondering like if we should have like this I don't know, maybe a service that checks each one of these services, maybe recursively until a timeout period. And each service lets the orchestrator know, like, hey, this service is ready, right? Like repository service say, hey, I'm ready to go. Or any other service. And then we can do stuff like use the some of the LSP protocol to let the client know where the server is doing work or whatever, not fully initialized.
Yeah, with like I think that we could have a utility class, something in the integration test that would just check the feature state checks. We are sending notifications about saying which features work and which don't. And if you would implement, and that would be good for the front end as well. Like the front end doesn't need anything like, you know, I'm ready because it's getting the feature state checks. That's the communication with the client. And if you would have feature state checks saying you can't use code suggestions yet because the like the file system service is initializing, or like the access checker is being repopulated after config change, then that could be used in the integration test. And that would be also nice because you would be showing the user in the status bar item in VS Code like something's still happening. It's not fully functional yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I can. Yeah. I'll create something, or if someone wants to create an issue, but we have like 4 issues we gotta. I think it's good though. I think it's.
Could we send along the initial options in our the initialization handshake, like as a way to go? We can't.
Like, I'm not sure. You can probably extend the protocol, but the base protocol doesn't let you do that. The initialization is you're pretty much exchanging capabilities. That's what you're saying. Like, I can do code.
Yeah.
I can do code completion and diagnostics, and the server says something back to you for it.
So I do see that there is like an inside of that initialized params. This is in the LSP protocol. That there is an initialization options, which is typed as an LSP any. Then they describe it as being user provided initialization options. Now that to me means this is whatever you want it to be. So I'm wondering if this is where they would expect that kind of stuff to happen.
That's not a request response though, right?
It is.
It is.
It's the first handshake that says, okay, the LSP, your language server is ready to go as a result of this. Now you can only send it once, so you'd be in a situation where
we still have an issue that like we are not awaiting. You know, when config service starts saying I changed, the listeners are not synchronous. It's not that when you fire the event of config change, you don't go to the next line until all the listeners finished their work. I tried to do it, but I implemented it in one merge request that's now closed, but I don't think it's the right way to go. It's like waiting for everything to happen, because usually that's like seconds after the config change. I'm not sure that that's the best way to hold the request, especially in production, like holding up the initialization. It's probably
yeah.
Shall we move the discussion to the next one? The next voting is a node update. Does anyone have anything to contribute to that except for, like, I don't know when this is end of life, but VS Code is already running on 20.
It's end of life, and I sent in the language server channel, but it ends in like 3 or 4 months. So this is like a kind of a
getting pretty urgent.
Yeah. And the major kicker is like, I even took a stab at it, like for using the node C like single executable application. And it's like it's a non-trivial amount of work, unless I'm like missing something, but it doesn't seem like that API is even stable. Like it's in active development. Nodes, you know, binary feature basically. So there's that. And also the package one, I looked at the fork. There is one fork that seems like it's maintained, but I'm wary of like the security stuff, because if that gets like supply chain attacked, then we're super screwed, especially because it's about binaries, right? If it was like a different dependency, that would be a little bit different, but yeah, that was kind of my research on it so far. But yeah, I don't know what to do as far as like the node upgrade itself should be relatively simple. It's the binary building that's going to be hard. So unless anybody's tried building with Node 20 with the old package. I don't know, maybe that's something that we can try. The old package dependency, but I don't know if it requires Node 18 or not.
I don't have any more info on it except for it seems like it's a hard issue that several people took a stab at and figured out that they can't finish it in a day or two. So I guess it's good that we upvoted it, and when it's end of life, that means end of security updates and whatnot. We have like a limited time frame. What's exactly the like node? What is it? 18 end of life. Okay, we've got good 3 months to go.
Yeah.
To
John,
fix it.
John brought up, what if we moved to Dino?
Yeah.
So Dino has implemented 100% coverage of the Node API. So it should be a very quick migration.
You know, Bun said the same thing, and they got absolutely crapped on for that.
That is true.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like if someone's working on this and they're just literally throwing stuff at the wall to see, hey, does anything work? You know, it might not be like that would be a single line, you know, does this work? Um,
Yeah, Dino, you're saying like try
yeah,
Dino.
you know, you could just npm install Dino globally and then just go, does Dino compile work? And see what comes out of it.
Yeah, we could try. But I don't know, like from a corporate policy
Yeah, I
perspective,
don't know.
will they? I don't know. Um,
Cool.
Definitely not Bun, even though Bun would be kind of cool. But
Yeah, I don't know. How much is a node binary? If we were to just like add a node executable as the the thing that runs node scripts on your computer, that's definitely signed correctly, and put the
Yeah.
that binary and our what is it 15 megabyte folder next to it, and say here's your language
Yeah.
server.
or you're
I
saying
don't know.
have people install Node instead of shipping a binary?
Yeah, have it like how do you call it in Windows when it's like you have it on a USB stick? It's called something different than install. It's called like Windows has a specific thing when you don't install the applications, but you run the exe file from
Oh
some other
yeah, sort of
location.
like I always think of it as like a standalone or you know,
Probably standalone. Yeah, I was just
yeah.
thinking that we would just not install it; we would just package it with it.
Mm. Oh, like download
Ship,
Node
ship the node
Yeah,
binary. Yeah.
ship the node.
and then just execute that with
Yeah.
the
With the
refer
script. Yeah,
with the bundle.
that would work. I just don't know how big is it gonna be. I don't know whether there is some tree shaking that the package is doing and figures out that you don't need 90% of the SDK and takes it out.
That I don't know. I feel like Aaron would know this well. Also, like, what would we do with all the binary signing stuff? I guess we would gut it, right, or something. We would still
uh,
sign the node binary.
it's signed, right? You would not touch it. You would download it for the 3 platforms that we support and
Mm,
not touch it. And if you don't touch it, it's signed, and it's signed by Node and not doesn't need anything.
that would actually be nice for us, right? Like, we don't need to do custom signing.
Yeah, if we could get away with it, maybe worth a spike.
That's a good idea, actually. That might be a viable solution. So basically, download Node when we build in the CI, right? And then when we publish, not language server, but when we publish the binary, it's
Yeah.
it's like a folder or an archive.
Yeah. exactly.
Um,
If whatever node needs to run plus our 15. So it's probably like 200 megabytes of something plus our 15 megabytes of our script and the WebAssembly three-seater grammars.
we should ask JetBrains, people on JetBrains, like what they think about that. If it's possible on JetBrains, then I think that would be, I don't know, like John on Visual Studio, would that be possible?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think the node binary is like 50 megs. So
Oh, okay, well, fine.
Then that would be sweet.
yeah.
If it doesn't need, if it's not too, I know that there was some limit in JetBrains on the marketplace. I think it's like 100 megabytes for the plugin. So I think we reached it with some change to our binaries. Yeah. Okay. So we've got these two discussed. There is a one. We don't have Andre on a call, so we probably don't have to discuss one-click release process for language server. I know that he's got a merge request open, but I don't know how far off it is. And then we've got this bonus that that Tristan mentioned somewhere, I think, here, about adding smoke test for desktop editor. That like you would have a when you run the smoke tests or the end-to-end tests for GitLab, when you are making GitLab changes, downstream pipeline would start the extension and connect it to that GitLab that somebody's developing. So you would know instantly this changed broke the end-to-end tests for the extension, which I think it sounds like a pretty good
That would be cool.
idea.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, this is the voting. Let's have a look. We have 20 minutes left. Let's have a look at the points that Tristan added to the agenda. Tristan had some discussion with Chat about organizing tech debt and distinguishing between different types of tech debt. I haven't had a chance to read that article yet. So unless somebody from you had, then we probably don't have much to discuss there. The next item is suggestions for a tech debt item that falls outside of our current list due to the project located. So that's the one smoke test that's in the main GitLab project, and the issue is not captured in the automation scripts that we wrote. He says that it would prevent this incident. I don't know whether I should open it. Probably not. I'm not going to do it. Those are sometimes private. And near incident. I think it's a great idea. We discussed it. No need to go any further on that, except for hopefully we'll schedule it and do some spike. It sounds pretty heavy. Like, you have to run an instance of the editor and you need to connect it to the test instance of GitLab. Sounds like it's not going to be completely trivial. And testing in CI when the systems get this large can be like most of your time is just testing, waiting for something to happen in the CI. So, but that's what we have to do if you want to have working code. The next item is it would be useful to take the legwork out of choosing release offices. And Tristan proposes that we will use GitLab's on-call schedule to do that. I think that's a good idea to dog food it. And the problem is that only maintainers can see the rotations. That's tricky because usually you get people from other teams asking for, I'll just put it here. Usually you get people from other teams asking for releases. So for them, it's useful that it's on the planning issue and they know who to ask to release. Okay. And that's that. Does anyone have anything to add? Or do you want to discuss some other issue in more detail? We do have the packages that we can talk about as well. Or if John, if you would have a look at the merge request that I assigned to you, I made it super tiny, just pretty much
Yep.
saying like we want to use packages, hoping that we will add on top of it as like patterns emerge further. But there was one point where Angela was asking, I gave the core package as an example, and after Angela mentioned it, yes, you did mention it as like an anti-example. Maybe we can switch it from examples to anti-examples to like, discuss some guidelines. But
Yeah.
Oh, for the packages, document like the MR that you have up, Tomas?
yeah,
Is that
yeah.
okay?
Yeah, that's the one. Like here, packages everywhere,
That's
and
funny.
here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a negative case would be better. Like, don't do this, do this, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
I
I'm
think,
not
I think
sure.
we just have to almost decide on domains and kind of like make sure that that it wraps into a domain that it belongs in. And core is so ambiguous that you're kind of like, well, I have to understand core before I could use core. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it should be like config or API requests or something like that. Makes sense.
yeah.
Just for Dylan, for your benefit, because all of us, the rest of us was on the call where we were discussing it. We were just thinking about how to structure the code, talking about NPM packages as the best way, the best out of the bad ways to structure code in Node. And we were discussing some guidelines. In this merge request, I created just like a couple paragraphs of mentioning what the guidelines would be. And the last bit that probably we need to resolve before going ahead with this merge request is not saying that core is the example of how to do it. Maybe I can mention it as an anti-example. If you would just, John, leave a message on the merge request with
Oh,
like what you think. And I probably say something like, yeah, core is same as util, and it will have the tendency to catch
yeah.
anything and everything, and we should split it into different domains. And that's going to be a good guideline for like in this architecture doc, if I just put there one paragraph about how we would split the core if we
Yep.
had the time, or how we will do it in the future.
And one thing I will add, just because I noticed it right now, was that our web views actually aren't located in our packages folder anymore. It is now a dedicated directory for WebView or web view.
Gotcha.
Just because they're so different, we know that they're separate applications.
I knew it, but like when I was searching for web views, I see that there is a web view duo chat in the packages, fits what I needed.
Yeah, I
Maybe,
know. They gotta be. We gotta. Well, there's so much like just deletion that needs to happen. And
yeah,
those things.
maybe we,
Like
yeah.
there was one question, I think Angela raised it, and I also wanted to know. So like how do we go around like the tests in specific packages? Like for example, like the Duo chat has like separate test script and like it has different jest config. So maybe we can have some guidelines around that, because I think it just like it's not running like as part of the test script, like generic test script, but just hanging there.
Should we even
Uh,
have like a separate Jest config per package? Like, I feel like we should just have, is it possible to just have a regular?
Yeah. We have like for the Duo chat, and I think for the workflows, they have separate jest configs.
But is that for the front end or is that for the,
It's for the front end, for the view application.
but not for like a package that would be as part of the backend runtime, right?
I don't know.
I think that all the packages should be tested just by one script and one definition. But
Yeah,
by packages, I mean packages. And then
backend.
web views, that's a different story. I'm not like, ideally we would want to make them as similar as possible, like use view 3 for all of them or something. But until we get to that homogeneity, they probably will have separate configs
Yeah.
that we will have to maintain and manage, which is a little bit of a maintenance pain.
And we could put those configs into a package if we wanted to. Like so we're doing that today with our Vite config. So our Vite config that's shared across um, uh, workflow, and then I think that Lynn, I think that when migrating stuff, it's using that Vite common Vite package. So we could do the same thing for test for jest configs as well. One thing I was going to mention, Lena, was that if from the root you can run like an npm run, script name, and then do a -w, and then you would put in the name of the package that you want to run, and then it would run that script against. It says, hey, does this script exist? Is there a test script on this package? If so, run it. And we can write scripts around that. We could also just say, hey, run everything against. I think if you just do npm run dev, and I think if you do -ws, which is like workspace, it just says run this across every known package. If it has a script named this, we run it. And that way we could say, hey, let's test everything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I think like web views tests are not running currently, so the script needs improvement. And I was talking about it more like in terms of the documentation Thomas is writing. What's our like best practice? Like how do we like configure the package or the web view? Like do they have a separate like just config? Do they have a separate test script or build script or whatever?
Yeah.
Or,
I won't include any specifics like this in the merge request. I would like to get that one merged that when we agreed on using packages, and we can create any follow-ups that there might not be in the architecture document if they are like very specific about how to run tests or how to write a new test kind of thing. They would live somewhere else. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. One last thing, if anyone is brave, you could participate in the rotation of preparing these meetings. It's about, it would be probably better if Elvin says. I think I lured Tristan on saying that it's an hour, and it's more like 2 to 3 hours of the month of like processing it and preparing it. But well, yeah, if you feel brave, please let us know, Tristan, myself, or Elwin, and otherwise we'll keep probably rotating it between 3 of us till somebody else joins in.
I can do the next one. I'll volunteer.
Awesome.
Okay.
Volunteer as a tribute. Awesome. Perfect. Thank you, Lena. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you, almost all of you, probably all of you, in like 15 minutes or something like that. A lot of meetings today. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.